Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me for today's video. Someone reached out to me on our Discord server that we now have. I'll drop a link in the description below if you want to check that out. And they asked me to take a look at this track by a band called Disturbed, and it's called A Reason to Fight, the official live video. Please remember, I do have my other YouTube channel called Therapy in Action, which is all mental health information. It's skills and exercises. There's information videos. There's way to deal with anxiety, depression, managing emotions, different ways to work out what's meaningful to you in your life. It's early days for that channel yet, but it is growing and I upload videos there regularly. So please come and join us there if you think that's something that's going to be helpful for you. And I also do live streams on there as well, where I answer your questions as a therapist about therapy and mental health. So if that's something that interests you also, then please go and check out that channel and maybe subscribe and help support that one. Thank you. If you're new to this channel, then hi, my name's Stuart. I am a practicing psychotherapist from the UK. I specialise in working with people who have experienced trauma. These videos aren't in-depth analysis to artists' mental health and psychology. These are just my initial thoughts, what goes through my mind at the time of watching the video. And the idea is that you get some insight into what immediately goes through my mind. What is my thought process as a therapist? And sometimes that can come across as me talking about my clinical experience and things I have seen in my practice. Sometimes I talk about my own personal experience and mental health. And sometimes I just talk about what's coming up for me in that moment as a human being who experiences thoughts and feelings like everyone else. And I explain why I may be reacting how I am. I will caveat that by saying that doesn't mean I'm right. Often I say things you might not agree with. Often I miss things. Often I just plainly get things wrong. The nature of reaction videos is you don't have time to come up with a well articulated and reasoned response or reaction, or you may come across as cold or insensitive, but that's not my intention. This is, as I said before, just an insight into what's coming up immediately for me. So this is exciting, a new artist for me, and a live video too, I'm guessing by the title, which I think might be the first on this channel. And this has 2.9 million views over 4 years. I know very little about Disturbed other than you probably can guess what I'm going to say, that Down with the Sickness track that I heard many, many years ago. So without further ado, here is Disturbed, A Reason to Fight official live video.
Our world is plagued by an epidemic, by a disease that shows no mercy. The demons known as addiction and depression are very real, and they have claimed far too many of those we love far sooner than they should have left us. Those still with us are fighting a battle they wage every day of their lives, keeping those demons at bay. It's up to us to show them that they aren't alone, that they have nothing to be ashamed of, that we understand, and that we will fight with them and for them.
Thought we'd get a little closer to you for this one.
The song A Reason to Fight, I know it's personal to the group and it's very personal to me.
It reaches out to those who suffer from mental illness, addictions, or depression, any and all of the above.
There have been so many times in my life when I really wanted to stop fighting.
I am a survivor of a suicide attempt, and on paper I shouldn't be here.
I also am one of them. I've dealt with depression most of my life.
During high school, I did have those thoughts of suicide, and I was really in pain.
I had plans to kill myself.
I battle depression almost every day. It is a fight, it's a struggle.
I'm a recovering alcoholic. I started drinking at the age of 16, drank to forget all my problems, tried to commit suicide a couple of different times.
This song speaks out about so many different things to so many different people.
They have a message.
The message to fight the demons and suicide and depression.
I hear it in your voice, so ridden with shame from what's ailing you.
That touched home with me. I lost my nephew a few years ago to addiction.
My grandfather had an addiction with alcohol. It was pretty bad growing up.
I lost my brother a year ago to depression. He took his own life.
It's good that they're trying to raise awareness on not only addiction, but depression also.
I've lost friends in the military, both to combat and to suicide.
About 5 years ago, I learned that my father committed suicide. And since then, I have been an advocate on why you should not do it.
I won't give up, so don't give in. You've fallen down, but you can rise again. So don't give up when the demon that's inside you is ready to begin. And it feels like it's a battle that you will never win. When you're aching for the fire and begging for your sin, when there's nothing left inside, there's still a reason to fight.
There's always a reason, and right now.
Oh, let's just pause it there. I don't want to, but I feel like that's a good place to just have a quick check-in. And there's so much to talk about here. These personal stories, they hit so much harder when you know there is an individual experiencing this, whether it's the pain of not wanting to be here or the pain of losing someone else. And this message, this line, when there's nothing left inside, there is still a reason to fight. That throws up a lot of things for me. Firstly, depression has a big impact on how we perceive things. It affects memory. So we tend not to recall the positive or good things in our life, or that have happened in our life, or that we have in our life. And we get something called negative cognition bias, where we tend to focus more on the negative things our mind brings to us. So that's a bit of a double whammy. We lose the ability to see the good and we focus on the bad. And it affects us physically. We physically slow down and don't want to do anything, which means we start to feel helpless and hopeless. And that can become compounded. And I think Disturbed mentioned this. I think he mentioned the word shame, but it can be compounded by things like guilt and shame. Thoughts about letting people down, not being a good mum, not being a good dad, brother, sister, friend, colleague, whatever. And you can see how this can continue to spiral and cause so much pain. You start shutting down. You move from a fight-flight response into a freeze response. If you think of a rabbit being chased by a fox, that rabbit is going to see the fox and think, they're going to have me for dinner, and enter fight or flight to save itself. It might weigh up its chances of a fight, no chance. It will then consider flight, and it will run off to try to get away. And if the fox gets close enough, or even if it catches the rabbit in its mouth, the rabbit will go into freeze. Its brain will decide to shut everything down so it doesn't have to deal with the pain. And something similar happens here. And that's hard to get out of. A lot of time people don't want to die. They just don't know how to continue to live experiencing what they're experiencing. They don't know how to get through the pain that they are suffering. So the mind looks for options to get rid of that pain. But there is still a reason to fight, because that can lift. I know it's possible. I've seen it. It may feel like there is nothing inside, but that doesn't mean there isn't. And it's hard to get out of that alone. You need some form of support to get out of that cycle. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It doesn't have to be a doctor. But it does need to be someone who is willing to listen and be there for you and be patient and help you try and take small steps towards recovery. It's possible.
There's always a reason, and right now, you may not feel like you have a reason to fight. I didn't feel like I had a reason, and in the end, I realized I have plenty of reasons to fight, but you can't do it alone, and it's okay to ask for help.
We makes us stronger, everybody. Not I, not you. We.
Being there for someone who has that thought is the best thing you can do.
I fight with my demons every day.
It's a daily battle with the monsters in my head.
We all have our demons, and most of the time suffer in silence.
I don't go through it myself, but I see what she goes through.
We're not alone, although it takes a lot to accept that. But there is hope, and if you can offer hope, it can reinstill faith.
This has blown me away what happened today, because it gave me kind of the new understanding of what you can do with your music. It can be about actually changing people's lives. And David was super clear about what the call to action is, that we want to care about people who are in crisis right now.
We keep losing soldiers in this war, and I'm tired of losing so many people that are so talented, so many people that I care so deeply about, to the demons of addiction and depression. We lost Keith Flint from The Prodigy recently. I miss Chester, I miss Scott, I miss Chris, Paul Gray, Wayne Static. The list goes on and on and on. And this is not just an epidemic that affects the world of entertainment. Our veterans, our military, they're dropping like flies. 22 veterans take their own life every single day, ladies and gentlemen. And we do not do enough to support them. Being taken by addiction or depression is no one's fault. It is not something for you to be embarrassed of. It is not something for you to be ashamed of.
Gosh, my heart is thumping. And that's because my body is moving into a fight or flight response. It wants to get away from this. My natural urge as a human is for me not to experience this pain that I'm and discomfort that I'm hearing through this video. So it wants me to fight or flight. It wants me to get away. But I'm not going anywhere, don't worry. And it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to sometimes notice this in other people, I guess, unless you're really close to someone. You know, these well-known people, Keith Flint from The Prodigy, Chester from Linkin Park, on the surface, they may appear to be doing well, doing something that they love, on top of their game. And then it's a massive shock when something happens. And I guess it shows you never really know what's going on for someone, you know, what's going on underneath the stuff that you can see. And I think I picked up right at the beginning of this track, some of the first lines. I think his name's David from Disturbed, was saying, I can see it in your eyes and I can hear it in your voice, or something like that. And I don't know if we always can. If we know someone well and we see them day to day, then I think we can pick up on it. But outside of that, I think it's incredibly difficult. And we are all very focused on our own lives and what's going on for us, that it can be difficult to notice it in other people. And we need to get better at opening this stuff up, creating a culture where it doesn't need to be hidden and it's okay to be vulnerable. And this is exactly what David is trying to do. He's trying to bring this to our attention. And this is very powerful.
Not something for you to be ashamed of. Put some light on these people, please. To prove to you that this is not an affliction that is exclusive to the world of entertainment. By a show of hands, how many of you have dealt with the demons of addiction and depression yourselves or know someone that has? Now take a look around at this arena. You are not alone. We're in this together, my brothers and sisters of my blood, and it's up to us to take a stand, to make a pact here, tonight, that we will not wait until the day of our beloved's funeral when we are standing in front of their casket and the words keep echoing through your mind, I wish I would have.
Are you ready to begin? This is a battle that we are gonna win. When you're aching for the
mental health, mental illness, addiction, all of these kinds of things have such a negative connotation, and them taking the time to really pay attention to this, telling us we're not alone.
You're a great leader because you really want other people to succeed too.
Hits home pretty close.
Absolutely. 18 years sober.
I just celebrated 4 years clean from addiction.
As of writing this, I am 7 months sober. That took some serious bravery, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what we all have to be, is brave.
When bands like Disturbed publicly speak about mental illness, it helps open that door.
Thanks for telling your story. I told mine back in December for the first time, so...
Hey, bro.
Know what it's like. I know how hard it is to get up in front of one person or 10,000 plus people and tell your story like that.
Now I can say I'm 100% sober, but more importantly for me, 100% right now in a good spot in my head. We can just help one person, then we're doing something right. That could be you. So ask for help if you get the chance, please.
If you are in crisis or know of someone that is in crisis, please contact the National Addiction Hotline at 1-800-662-4357 or the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Through the strength and support of our extended family, we can make a difference to those who fight this war. We must continue to be their allies, their hope, their added source of strength. We must continue to give all of them a reason to fight.
Ooh. I need to compose some thoughts. I've talked about this kind of thing before in a previous Ren video, but as this video might reach a different group of people, I think I'm going to say it again because, or something similar, because it's really, really important. More conversations about mental health are happening. It seems every week or month we are trying to raise awareness to a certain topic. You know, it's on TV being discussed. You see it in social media. You see it in mainstream media. You see it being shared around. I see employers trying to raise awareness and showing some understanding and trying to offer some flexibility. But I don't think it's enough. We talk around it, but we don't talk about it. We just brush over the surface. We aren't having those difficult and meaningful conversations that we should be having, I think, if we're being honest with ourselves. Those big societal shifts just aren't happening. And being really honest, to me, it doesn't feel like anything has really changed in years. And I mean, and by that, I mean, maybe there's been a small shift, but it doesn't feel there's been any meaningful impact in the last decade or so. Maybe it's there. Maybe I just haven't seen it. Maybe my viewpoint on this is skewed because I work with so many people who are just in pain every day. If you were feeling distressed or depressed or overwhelmed and we're having thoughts about ending things, would you talk to a work colleague about it? Would you go to your manager? Would you go to a friend? Would you go to a family member? Would you ring a helpline? And in fact, my mind says to me that that's probably the option that most people would go to because they don't want to burden other people that they know. They don't want that guilt or shame that might come with that. But I'm not convinced that these conversations, these real honest, these real difficult conversations are happening any more than they were years ago. I think broadly speaking, we're talking around these topics, but I think that has led to very little substance and action and very little change. Please, if I'm wrong with this, if you think there has been a big shift, let me know in the comments. Like I said, my view might be really skewed on this because I work with so many people who have difficulties. Remember, we are all talking about fellow human beings. I think a line that I heard David use was, my family, my blood, or fellow humans, men, women, everyone in blood. You know, we are all human beings. It's really easy to judge. It's really easy to look at someone and say mental illness, alcohol, substance user, depressive, personality disorder. But remember, these are humans with real lives and real families. And there is a way to respond to someone who says that they might be feeling this way. You know, they're really struggling. And I can never remember what the quote is because it's quite long. Again, I'll pull it up as an image if I can find it. But essentially it says, it can be helpful to ask people who are experiencing this, where do you hurt and how can I help? Where do you hurt and how can I help? That helps us focus on the human and the pain. Okay, we're not focusing on causes in terms of, is it mental illness? Is it not mental illness? Is it biology? Is it not biology? Is it genetics? Is it not genetics? Risk factors, you know, whatever importance they happen to have, which is little. We're making that connection with the person. Where do you hurt and how can I help? And that's a really good place to start. And this is probably more common than you think, which is why I mentioned that's a good place to start. You know, there's some data that says 1 in 2 people will have these thoughts. I read some data recently from the UK. 1 in 15, that's 1/5, will make an attempt. You know, for me to try to think about that in terms of what that looks like in people. My daughter has 30 friends in her class, and I don't think their stats were children, they were adults, but it just helps me conceptualize what 30 people look like. And that's saying two people in her class in their life will make an attempt. And that's sad. It's really sad. But we can help there. We can make these personal connections. Powerful, man. What a video. What a whole package. A great song, great video, people sharing experiences, opening up and being vulnerable and modelling that that's okay. Probably one of the best I've ever seen. So thank you for sharing that with me. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.